What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Vegas 80. We got Grant Dawson going against Bobby Green.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another full card breakdown and prediction video after coming off of a week off last week. No fights were last week. We still had a contender series though, but looking forward to getting right back into it. We have UFC Vegas 80. UFC Vegas 81, and then I think UFC 294 to end the month here. So it's going to be a good month of fights. And then next month, just ridiculous. UFC 295 is going to be crazy in November. We got UFC 296 in December. So yeah, looking forward to some of these big cards to kind of end the year here. It's been a really good year thus far. 2 weeks ago, had probably one of my favorite nights, a night where I only went 4.5 units in, ended up turning, 5.61 units profit thanks to hitting a Cody Brundage round one prop. Not really how I drew it up, but hey, you gotta take it when you get it there. So yeah, came off of a really good week 2 weeks ago. Prior to that, I had that 9 unit week as well. So at this point, up 66 units this year with a 20% ROI. Couldn't be any happier with how this year is going. I feel like I kind of switched up my strategy a little bit this year, taking more plus money shots, and it seems to be paying dividends there. So looking forward to ending the year strong. Before we get into it, if you guys can please do me a favor, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It is always much appreciated. This video is brought to you by Prize Picks. If you guys are new to Prize Picks, be sure to sign up, use promo code DFSBTN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. I'll be getting out my Prize Picks video later in the week there. But you highly recommend some Prize Picks, and then also highly recommend signing up on DFSbythenumbers.com. $10 a month. The most popular option is that MMA betting tier. There you'll find all my bets, my betting articles. I do a full card best bet article where I break down the entire card, get my best bet, the prediction, the method, and the confidence ratings. And there's just a ton more content that you do not see on YouTube, and it also is the best way to support me there. So check that out. But with all that out of the way, I say we get into it. And we're going to start with the first fight on the card. And we got Montana De La Rosa going against JJ Aldrich here. And we will start with JJ Aldrich, who is 31 years old, 5'5", with a 67.5-inch reach, 12-6 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Montana De La Rosa, 28 years old, 5'7", with a 68-inch reach, 12-8 in 1-1, 3-1 in her last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. And when I researched this fight, Montana De La Rosa was an underdog, and that is not the case anymore. So De La Rosa actually opened up plus 170, and she's currently minus 135. And JJ Aldrich opened up minus 200, and she is currently plus 115. So this line has flipped and is now in favor of Montana De La Rosa here. And I do lean the Montana De La Rosa side here. I liked her a lot more at plus money, because at the end of the day, I do think this is going to be a pretty close fight. We have a striker versus grappler matchup where on the feet, JJ Aldrich, although not entirely dangerous, she doesn't really hit hard. She is a good striker. She does throw good volume, and she's going to be the better striker in this matchup. But Montana De La Rosa is going to have the grappling advantage here. Montana De La Rosa, I don't think is the best fighter in the world, but what she is pretty good at is her wrestling solid for the division. It really is. Her grappling's pretty solid as well. And I was kind of looking through the record of Montana De La Rosa, and like when she's losing fights, she's losing to pretty good competition. Like she just got submitted by Tatiana Suarez. There is absolutely no shame in that. Tatiana Suarez, future champion. We got a loss to Macy Barber. There is no shame in that whatsoever. Macy Barber, knocked out JJ Aldrich, right? Had the draw against Mara Bueno Silva, had a loss against Viviane Araújo, and then I guess her worst loss would probably be Andrea Lee, and that's not really a bad loss to have. Whereas JJ Aldrich, she's going out there, getting taken down 3 times by Liang Na. I know Liang Na is my girl, but that's not the best look in the world. Getting just 30-27 by Ariana Lipski. Also not a very good look whatsoever. So I think it all comes down to whether or not De La Rosa is able to get takedowns, and I kind of lean towards her doing so. Like I said, if Liang Na is able to take you down, I think there's a good chance that Montana De La Rosa is, and obviously Montana De La Rosa's grappling is much better than Liang Na's. The cardio is much better than Liang Na's. We saw Liang Na go out there, make a ton of mistakes on the mat. That's not going to be the case with De La Rosa. If De La Rosa does take down Aldrich, I feel like she's going to be able to control position a lot better. So, yeah, I like De La Rosa here. I like her to win by decision, like potential finish here. Potential finish here. I'll say decision, though, from Montana De La Rosa. But I liked her, like I said, a lot more at plus money because this could end up playing close. Like, if De La Rosa does not get the takedown, she's probably kind of screwed. But I'll take De La Rosa to get this fight down to the mat and win this fight by decision. Moving on, we got Mateus Mendonca going against Nate Maness. We got Mateus Mendonca, who is 24 years old, 5'6", 71.5-inch reach, 10-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Nate Maness, 32 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 14-3, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. Quite frankly, they're kind of shocking to me, but at the same time, it's kind of expected. This fight opened up a pick'em, minus 110 each way. Mendonca is now minus 260. Nate Maness is plus 220, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Mateus Mendonca is training with, Charles Oliveira at Shoot the Box over there. So I think that has a lot to do with the line. Those guys have looked really good lately. A lot of hype on those guys lately, and that's why I think we're kind of getting the line here, because I think this is a pretty close fight. So right off the bat, I've really struggled with Nate Maness fights. Like, I think I've lost money on every single Nate Maness fight besides the last one against Tagir Ulanbekov, and that's just because I didn't bet the fight, because I'm done betting Nate Maness fights. Like, I can't get this guy right. I've picked against Nate Maness every single time in the UFC, and I've been wrong a couple times. And even when I'm right, I'm wrong because I had the under 2.5 in the Umar Nurmagomedov fight, and Umar just somehow could not finish Nate Maness. But against Tony Gravely, I was very confident in Tony Gravely against Nate Maness. Tony Gravely goes out there and basically knocks him out at the end of the first round, kind of saved by the bell there. Nate Maness was barely could get up after the first round. I thought he wasn't going to continue, but he did continue, and then he went out there and knocked out Tony Gravely. Against Luke Sanders, I had a bet on Luke Sanders. Luke Sanders is going out there just styling on Nate Maness, making it look easy, outstriking him like 3-1 just about. And then Luke Sanders starts to gas out, makes a mistake, and gets hurt, and then Nate Maness jumps on him and submits him. And then even against Johnny Munoz, like I had Johnny Munoz in that fight, and I thought Johnny Munoz won that fight. Johnny Munoz controlled him for like 2/3 of the fight, but still couldn't get the nod there. So I've had some bad luck. I don't know if it's bad luck or what against Nate Maness. I'm always picking against this guy, but you can never really count him out. So I have to pick Mendonca because I will never pick Nate Maness in a UFC fight ever. I don't like the volume of Nate Maness. I think there's a hole in the grappling as well. I don't think he should be fighting at flyweight. There was a picture circulating of Nate Maness after his cut to flyweight in his last fight against Tagir Ulanbekov. It was probably the worst I've ever seen somebody look, for a weight cut. So I think weigh-in's going to be very important for this fight, for me at least, because I want to see Nate Maness on the scale, and I also want to see Mateus Mendonca on the scale, because I think Mendonca is making his debut at flyweight, or at the very least, it's going to be the first time in a while where Mendonca's fought at flyweight. So, yeah, I got to see the weigh-ins for this one, but I'll take Mendonca to win this fight by decision, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than this line does indicate there. Mendonca by decision. Moving on, we got Kanako. Murata going against Vanessa Demopoulos. We got Murata, 30 years old, 5'1", with a 62-inch reach, 12-2 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Vanessa Demopoulos, 35 years old, 5'2", with a 59.5-inch reach, 9-5 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. We have a lot of big favorites on this card. This is one of them. Murata opened at minus 230. She's currently minus 360. And Vanessa Demopoulos opened up plus 195, and she's currently plus 295. So when I first saw the line, I'm like, what's going on? Murata's been out for like almost 3 years. It's been a while since we've seen her. Honestly, this could be a potential decent matchup for Demopoulos just due to the fact that she wants to fight on the ground, and that's where it's going to play out. But, after digging into this fight, I think Murata is going to make this look pretty easy. I was really impressed with first of all, the wrestling of Murata is honestly some of the best in the division. Her wrestling's very good. Her entries, very, very strong as well. I loved what I saw from the wrestling of Murata, but the grappling really impressed me as well. I know she got subbed. Technically, it was, a knockout in the Virna Jandiroba fight. Virna, I think, snapped her arm. But getting submitted by Virna Jandiroba, there's no shame in that. Virna Jandiroba is one of the best grapplers in the division, so I don't hold her against that too much. But I went back and looked at some of her other fights, and I was really impressed with the grappling. She's dangerous on the ground. She really is. But it's her wrestling, her control. She is able to fight out of submission attempts most of the time. She has been subbed twice, but one of those, like I said, was against Virna Jandiroba. Vanessa Demopoulos, she's a black belt in BJJ. Her path is going to be like some type of armbar from a guard type situation. So, and I can't really pick that. I think Murata wins this fight. I think she wins it pretty easily. I'm going to take Murata to win this fight. I think she eventually finds a submission here. I think she's going to control Demopoulos for a long time in this fight. I think something eventually is going to open up. She's going to have no problem taking down Vanessa Demopoulos. I mean, anytime somebody tries to take down Vanessa Demopoulos, she kind of folds like a lawn chair. She really doesn't have takedown defense. She is very content to be on her back, and that's going to be kind of to her detriment here. So I'm going to take Kanako Murata to win this fight. I'll take her to win this fight by second round submission there. Moving on, we have probably my least favorite fight in the card. We got Johnny Munoz Jr. going against Aoriqileng. We have Johnny Munoz Jr., 30 years old, 5'9", with a 71-inch reach, 12-3 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Aoriqileng is 30 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach, 24-11 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We have a pretty much a straight pick'em here. Munoz Jr. hasn't really moved. They opened up a pick'em, and they're currently about a pick'em here. So. And that's kind of how I see this fight, to be honest. Like, I am not high on either guy at all here. Johnny Munoz Jr. should be just ashamed of himself after his last performance against Daniel Santos, where he basically quit. He basically quit in that fight. He was pulling guard multiple times, and he was just losing minutes on bottom, just doing nothing. He landed 18 strikes in that fight that went the full 15 minutes. Just a horrible, horrible excuse of a performance for Johnny Munoz Jr. And you could say the same thing about Aoriqileng, because Aoriqileng in his last fight, he got starched in a minute by Aiemann Zahabi. I think it's a close fight. I'm actually shocked that the odds are where it is, because I really have not really seen anybody on Aoriqileng. So maybe the line, still can move, but it's only Tuesday. But yeah, a lot of people on the Johnny Munoz Jr. side. I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't be putting money on this guy after what he did in his last fight. I mean, he looked like he didn't want to be there. So, striker versus grappler matchup. On paper, Aoriqileng's takedown defense looks horrible. It's like 55%. But I actually went back and looked and watched those fights. And, getting taken down 5 times by Cody Durden, it's not a bad thing. I mean, 5 times by Cody Durden. Cody Durden went out there and took Charles Johnson down 11 times. And Cody Durden had problems like holding down Aoriqileng. Like, Aoriqileng looked good in that fight. Yes, he got taken down 5 times by Durden, but I don't hold that too much against him. And then he also got taken down 3 times by Jay Perrin, but Aoriqileng got up pretty much every single time. Jay Perrin was able to control Aoriqileng against the cage a little bit, but I haven't really seen anybody take down Aoriqileng, secure position. He's been subbed a couple times, but those submission losses were a long time ago outside of the UFC. So I'm going to say Aoriqileng does stuff the takedowns here, keeps them on the feet. I think Munoz probably pulls guard, whatever. It's going to be, I'm not looking forward to this fight at all. Like, I'm really not. I'm not betting this fight. I'm not high in either of these guys. But as far as a pick, because I have to give a pick, I'm going to take Aoriqileng to win by decision here. Moving on, we have the featured prelim. We got Karolina Kowalkiewicz going against Diana Belbita. We got Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She is 37 years old, 5'3", with a 64-inch reach, 15-7 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Diana Belbita, 27 years old, 5'7", with a 68-inch reach, 15-7 and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds, and we have Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She opened up minus 150. She's currently minus 165, and then we got Diana Belbita opening up plus 130, and she's currently plus 145. So I was looking at, throughout the record of Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and first of all, she's been on a roll lately. She's looked really good, especially in her last fight against Vanessa Demopoulos, but that was kind of a favorable matchup there. But, she looked really good against Felice Herrig as well, and that fight was like a pick'em prior to the fight. The Savannah Gomez-Juarez fight, it was whatever, a close fight, but, she was able to get the win. So Karolina is on a 3-fight winning streak here, and I think a lot of that has to do with what happened with Karolina. Was she was on a 5-fight skid at one point, losing 5 fights in a row, but you have to dig a little bit deeper into it. I mean, she's losing to some very, very good fighters. Yan Xiaonan, Alexa Grasso, Michelle Waterson-Gomez, Jessica Andrade. Do you know what Jessica Andrade, even at this point of her career, would do to Diana Belbita? Do you know what Yan Xiaonan would do to Diana Belbita? So she was on a 5-fight skid, but she was fighting, very good competition. Jessica Penny lost. That is actually inexcusable, but she made a mistake in that fight. So she takes a step down in competition, and that's when we start to see her, start to finally win fights. Felice Herrig, Savannah Gomez-Juarez, and Vanessa Demopoulos. I think Diana Belbita is kind of in that Demopoulos Juarez and Herod category at this point. I mean, Diana Belbita, one thing I do like about her game is she's a very high volume striker, but I mean, losing to Gloria DePaula, that's unforgivable. Losing to Luana Jojua is absolutely unforgivable. And losing to Molly McCann is even not the best look in the world. And her wins come against Maria Oliveira and Hannah Goldie. I mean, Diana Belbita is 2-3 in the UFC, and she's fought some of the worst competition I've ever seen in my life, UFC-wise. So if Karolina Kowalkiewicz loses this fight, it's going to probably be her worst loss ever. I mean, because she has some good losses. Yan Xiaonan, Claudia Gadelia back in the day when she was good, and Joanna Jędrzejczyk back in the day as well. So, yeah, if Karolina does lose this fight, it will be her worst loss ever, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm going to pick her here, but I think on the feet it's going to be very close and competitive. I think both fighters are pretty good strikers. I think the volume is going to be very high on both sides. But where I actually think Karolina can go out there and have some sneaky success is going to be in the grappling department. I think that's something that Diana Belbita really, really struggles with. We saw Molly McCann take her down 5 times. We even saw Hannah Goldie take her down a couple times. We saw Gloria DePaula take her down and control her for an entire round. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, as of late, has been showing the ability to go out there and get takedowns. You know, she got 2 against Silvana Gomez-Juarez, and she went out there and submitted Felice Herrig, just dominated her on the ground. So I feel like if Karolina Kowalkiewicz comes in here with the right game plan, I feel like she can go out there and win this fight. Potential submission, like Diana Belbita gets submitted all the time, but I'll say Karolina by decision. And if she comes in here with a crap game plan and stands and strikes for 15 minutes, which I don't think is going to be the case, we will see a very, very close fight here. But give me Karolina Kowalkiewicz to win this fight. I'll take her to win this fight by decision. Not in love with the price tag. I was hoping to get it at a better price, but that's not going to happen, it looks like. All right, moving on to the main card opener. Phenomenal fight here. Bill Algeo going against Alexander Hernandez. We got Bill Algeo. He's 34 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach, 17-7 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Alexander Hernandez, 31 years old, 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. Alexander Hernandez is 14-6, and he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. There we go. All right, we'll take a look at the odds, and we see that Bill Algeo, this is one of the closer lined fights on the card. Bill Algeo opened up -115. He's currently -145. And Alexander Hernandez opened up -105. He's currently +125. So this is going to be, I think, the second cut down to featherweight for Alexander Hernandez. His last fight, he did go out there and get a win against Jim Miller, but that fight was at lightweight. The first time we saw Hernandez cut down to featherweight, I was very skeptical about the cut to featherweight because but he made weight and all that, but against Billy Q, he did get finished in the second round, and I kind of see the same thing happening here potentially. So I actually think that Hernandez is a very good fighter. I think he's a very skilled fighter. I like the wrestling of Hernandez, the striking. I like the power that Hernandez possesses as well. But Hernandez is lacking 3 key attributes that have honestly cost him in a lot of his fights, and 3 key attributes that I think potentially will cost him here. Again, those 3 key attributes are cardio, durability, and heart. He has shown terrible cardio in the Billy Q fight. In even the Thiago Moises fight, he slowed down. In the Dober fight especially, he's shown terrible heart. I mean, this guy's getting finished in pretty much all of his losses. Billy Q finished him. Renato Moicano finished him. Drew Dober finished him. Donald Cerrone finished him. Like, this guy's getting finished multiple times, and all of those times have come in the second round. Like, this guy loves getting finished in the second round, Alexander Hernandez. So, yes, he looks really good early. I think he's going to win the first round, and I think he does at a very high clip against Bill Algeo, because I think Hernandez is the better fighter overall. I feel like Hernandez can get takedowns easy. Bill Algeo's takedown defense is horrible. I feel like, Hernandez is probably the better striker as well. I feel like Hernandez is probably better everywhere besides the cardio, the toughness, the durability, the heart, and all those go in favor of Bill Algeo, and it's not even close. Bill Algeo's tough as they come. Bill Algeo, 24 fights. He's never been knocked out. Bill Algeo can go a hard 15 minutes, no problem, and Bill Algeo's not going to go out there and quit. So I'm going to be looking at this fight from like a live bet perspective. I think Hernandez goes out there and puts it on Bill Algeo early, but it's just something he can't keep up, especially at featherweight. Especially at featherweight, he's going to be able to keep it up. I don't really think so. Bill Algeo, not much of a finisher, but, he is dangerous. He's a black belt in BJJ. He was able to go out there and submit TJ Brown in his last fight, and I think he's going to put a pace on Hernandez that he's just not going to be able to keep up with. So I'm going to take Bill Algeo to win this fight. I'll take Bill Algeo to win this fight by second round knockout. Could be a submission as well, a second round finish. All right, moving on, we got a weird fight, but should be entertaining, and I think that just sums up all of Ian Cutelaba's fights. They're weird, but they're always entertaining. We got Cutelaba going against Philipe Lins. We got Cutelaba, 29 years old, 6'1", with a 75-inch reach, 17-9-1, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Philipe Lins, 38 years old, 6'2", with a 78-inch reach, 17-5, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here, and we see that Ian Cutelaba opened up plus 130, currently minus 155, and then we got Philipe Lins opened up minus 150, currently plus 135, and this fight is very hard to predict, and basically every single Ian Cutelaba fight is pretty hard to predict, and that's because this guy is just a complete wild man. This guy is a complete wild card. We never know what he's going to go in there and do. He's going to go in there and he's going to either try to take your head off, or he's going to go in there and try to, wrestle you very hard for the first 5 minutes. The problem with Cutelaba is he always seems to really slow down as the fight goes on. So I guess it all comes down to, is Ian Cutelaba going to finish Philipe Lins in the first round? If so, it is what it is. But if not, if this fight reaches the second round, although I don't think Philipe Lins has the best cardio, I think Philipe Lins is absolutely going to have a cardio advantage against Ian Cutelaba here. So it's a weird fight. Philipe Lins is a guy that I actually was I don't want to say very high on, but a guy that I was excited about after he won the $1 million on PFL. And then he made his debut against Andrei Arlovsky, and he looked horrible. He looked like a completely different person. Then he goes out there and gets knocked out by Bozer. But since then, he's kind of rattled off 3 wins in a row. He's looking a lot better. He's cutting down to light heavyweight, which I think is a better weight class for him. So Philipe Lins has been looking really good as of late, but he is 38 years old at this time. But yeah, Philipe Lins is a black belt in BJJ. He looks to have very good takedown defense. Like I said, gonna have the cardio advantage. He's a pretty solid striker as well, has some power. So I think there are a lot of reasons to like Philipe Lins here, but there is a very good chance Cutelaba can go out there and just knock him out in the first couple minutes. So I'm going to take Philipe Lins, though. I'm going to take Philipe Lins to win this fight. I'll say submission. Cutelaba makes a ton of mistakes on the mat, and I think this is where the fight's going to play out a decent bit. I mean, Cutelaba's been submitted 4 or 5 times in his career. It's a ton. So I'm going to take Philipe Lins to snatch up a neck at some point in this fight. Give me Philipe Lins second round sub. All right, moving on. We have Drew Dober going against Ricky Glenn. We got Drew Dober, 34 years old, 5'8", with a 70-inch reach, 26-12 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Ricky Glenn, 34 years old, 6 foot, with a 70.5-inch reach, 22-7-2 and 2-2-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We see that Drew Dober, I think he's the biggest favorite or the second biggest favorite on the card. Yeah, he's the second biggest favorite. He opened up minus 410. He's currently minus 425. And Ricky Glenn opened up plus 310. He's currently plus 325. So when I first saw this fight, I was like, what the heck is going on? Who made this fight? Who sanctioned this fight? It really makes no sense other than they're just really trying to get Drew Dober back on track here. I mean, Ricky Glenn looked atrocious in his last fight. Just looked terrible. He looked washed, which is crazy to say because Ricky Glenn is the same age as Drew Dober, but Ricky Glenn just looked horrible against Christos Giagos, and Christos Giagos was able to knock him out within the first couple minutes of that fight. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with Ricky Glenn. I think he is, most definitely past his prime. I think he's, slowing down a lot in his career, and I think a lot of it has to potentially do with injuries, because this guy Ricky Glenn has had just ridiculously long layoffs. He had that layoff between 2018 and 2021, a 3-year layoff, and he went out there and knocked out Joaquin Silva in 37 seconds, and then he took another big layoff after the Dawson fight. It was 2021 to 2020, another 2-year layoff. I'm not sure what's going on with Ricky Glenn, but I think a lot of it probably has to do with injury related stuff. So I think that has to be affecting him a little bit because he just looks so bad in that Giagos fight. So, yeah, it's Drew Dober. It's Drew Dober, probably by knockout. I know Aoriqilen's only been knocked out once in like 30-some fights, but Drew Dober hits really hard, and if Aoriqileng shows up and looking anything like he did in the Giagos fight, it's probably the same result. So I'm going to take Drew Dober to win this fight. I'm going to take him to win this fight by first-round knockout. Moving on, we got Joaquin Buckley going against Alex Morono. We got Buckley, 29 years old, 5'10", with a 76-inch reach, 16-6, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Alex Morono, 33 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach, 23-8, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have Joaquin Buckley open up plus 130, currently minus 150. We got Alex Morono opening up minus 150. Currently plus 130. So, yeah, this is a fight where I think Morono's going to be a very popular underdog this week because I feel like minute for minute, this fight is going to play out very competitively. I feel like Alex Morono is the more well-rounded fighter. Alex Morono, black belt in BJJ, really good grappler. It's just, Alex Morono refuses to go out there and grapple. So I do expect this fight to stay standing, and when it is standing, I do expect the numbers to be very close. But there's a big difference between these two, and the big difference is power. One guy has a ton of power, and that is Joaquin Buckley. This guy hits like an absolute truck, and then another guy is Morono, who doesn't really have any power at all. Morono is more so a decision guy. He's not really knocking out many people, but when Buckley is going out there, he's going out there and knocking guys out most of the time. Buckley knocked out Andre Fiallo, knocked out Albert Duraev, knocked out Antonio Hoyo, Jordan Wright, Impa Kasaganai. Buckley's knocked out all but one of his wins. And that the one that he did not knock out was, I think it was Razak Alhassan in that like greasy decision there. But I kind of feel like Buckley knocks out Morono here. I really do. I think the durability of Morono might be deteriorating a little bit. We've been seeing him get hurt a lot more. He got dropped against Semmelsberger. He got knocked out by Ponzinibbio, which was really not the best look in the world. So I just feel like Buckley is going to catch Morono. He's going to land something big at some point in this fight. But I think somebody's getting knocked out here. I think these guys are going to stand and bang until one man falls. But I got to go with the guy with the power. I mean, if these guys are going to strike for 15 minutes, give me the guy with the ridiculous power and Joaquin Buckley to eventually touch the chin of Alex Morono here. So give me Buckley to win this fight. I'll take Buckley to win this fight by third-round knockout. All right, moving on to the co-main event. We got Joe Pyfer going against Abdul Razak Alhassan. We got Joe Pyfer. He's 27 years old, 6'2", with a 75-inch reach, 11-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Abdul Razak Alhassan, 38 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 12-5 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We have the biggest favorite here on the card, Joe Pyfer, open at minus 350, currently minus 450. And then we have Abdul Razak Alhassan. He opened up plus 250, and he is currently plus 350 there. So big favorite here in Joe Pyfer. I think probably a little bit too big of a favorite, but I think Pyfer just has a lot more ways to win this fight. So if Joe Pyfer wants to make this look, in my opinion, pretty easy, what he needs to do is get this fight down to the ground. I think a lot of people forget that Joe Pyfer is a very good grappler. I think he's a black belt in BJJ. He trains with like Sean Brady and them, the Renzo Gracie Philly guys. We have not seen it in a while though. It's been a while, like even outside the UFC. It's been kind of a while since Joe Pyfer's went out there and used his ground game to get it like a submission win. He's going out there, he's standing banging with these guys, and he's knocking them out. He's having success. We saw him get that knockout on the Contender Series. He did wrestle a little bit in that first round, though, but he got a knockout in the second round nonetheless. We saw him go out there and knock out Alan Amidovsky. We saw him go out there and knock out Jared Mearshart. What worries me here is that Joe Pyfer goes out there and tries to knock out probably one of the hardest hitters in the division in Abdul Razak Alhassan. I mean, Abdul Razak Alhassan's power, even at 38 years old, we know power is the last to go, is ridiculous. Abdul Razak Alhassan, 12 wins, all 12 of them by knockout, 11 of those wins coming in the very first round. The one that came in the second was 35 seconds into the second round. Abdul Razak Alhassan's power is nothing to mess around with. He has a lot more power than Gerald Mearshart, and he has a lot more power than Ozzy Diaz. He has a lot more power than Alan Amidovsky especially, and he's a lot better than all those guys in the striking department. But I think if Joe Pyfer goes out there and takes this guy down, I think he can make it look easy. Like Abdul-Razak Alhassan's takedown defense is just non-existent. What really surprised me with Abdul-Razak Alhassan was, I think it all started with like the Munir Lazez. Munir Lazez, a striker, went out there and just easily took down Abdul-Razak Alhassan 4 times. We saw Jacob Malkoun take him down 8 times. We saw Joaquin Buckley, a striker, take him down 5 times. Like, if Joe Pyfer takes this guy down, he's probably going to style on him and sub him here. It's just, what worries me is Joe Pyfer goes out there and tries to stand and bang with Abdul-Razak. If he does that, do I still think he wins? Yes, but do I think he looks minus 450? Maybe. I don't know, but messing around against Abdul-Razak Alhassan on the feet, especially early, is a dangerous thing to do. So I'm hoping Pyfer comes out here with a good game plan, and that game plan, in my opinion, would be to mix in the takedowns. Make Abdul-Razak Alhassan work a little bit, get this fight down to the mat, and once he does, I think he's going to style on him. We saw Jacob Malkoun, who finishes nobody, almost finished Abdul-Razak Alhassan multiple times in that second round. So I'm going to take Joe Pyfer to win this fight. I'm going to take Joe Pyfer to win this fight by second round submission. This fight's going to be awesome. It's probably my favorite fight on the card. I think somebody's going to get absolutely served here, but I think Joe Pyfer gets it done, and I think he gets it done by second round submission. All right, next we have the main event breakdown. I did post a more in-depth breakdown of this fight. If you want to go check that out, that's on the channel already. But we got Grant Dawson going against Bobby Green. We got Grant Dawson, 29 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach, 21-1 and 4-0-1 in his last 5 fights. Bobby Green, 37 years old, 5'10" with a 71-inch reach, 30-14-1 and 2-2-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Another big favorite here in Grant Dawson. Opened up minus 335, currently minus 425, and then we have Bobby Green opening up plus 275. He's currently plus 325. So, yeah, I mean, I think Grant Dawson's a pretty big favorite for a reason. It looks like we're not getting Grant Dawson at dog odds anymore like we did in the Damir Ismagulov fight. I think they're onto it now. Grant Dawson has looked incredible as of late. He moved to ATT a couple fights ago. His Damir Ismagulov fight was actually his first full camp at ATT. I think it did 9 weeks there. And then this is going to be a second full camp at ATT, and I think we're seeing a lot of improvements already from Grant Dawson. I think this guy, Grant Dawson, is in his prime or getting very close to it. I think we might even see a better version of Grant Dawson, which is terrifying because I don't think he could have looked any better in his fight against Damir Ismagulov. So Bobby Green's a good fighter. He really is. He's fought the who's who. He's a really good striker. He's a really good wrestler. He's a really good grappler. Bobby Green's well-rounded. It's just I don't think he's going to be able to really do anything here against Grant Dawson. I don't think he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns, and I don't think he's going to be able to stop Grant Dawson from getting into dominant positions, whether that be mount, whether that be, Grant Dawson taking Bobby Green's back. I think Bobby Green's just not going to be able to do anything to stop it. The one worry I do have about Grant Dawson is if this fight does reach the 4th and 5th round potentially, what's his cardio going to look like? Because we've seen Grant Dawson like absolutely death-gassed in 3rd rounds. Most notably was that Ricky Glenn fight, which wasn't too long ago. Grant Dawson got 10-8'd in the 3rd round against Ricky Glenn, and after the end of the 3rd round, Grant Dawson could barely get up, and James Krause had to help him to the corner. But I think he has improved his cardio since then. We've seen a couple 3rd round finishes from Dawson. I think the move to ATT is paying dividends here. So yeah, I think Dawson wins this fight. I think he finishes it before it even gets to the 4th round, so I'm not even sure that matters. So I'm going to take Dawson to win this fight. I'm going to take Dawson to win this fight by 2nd round submission. I think he makes it look pretty dominant here. And there you have it. Those are the predictions for UFC Vegas 80. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel. Check out dfsbythenumbers.com. I'll be getting out a lot of content this week for UFC Vegas 80, and also be sure to check out Prize Picks. Use that promo code at DFSBTN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Be on the lookout for the live streams Friday and Saturday. Final Thoughts live stream after the weigh-ins Friday, and then Best Bet Saturday as well. Going to have a full panel there for you guys. So best of luck for UFC Vegas 80, and yeah, let's end the year strong. See you guys later.